Welcome again to the SDG Media Zone, and what we will do in this session is to discuss the power of art for the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, that is really not exactly a small call, but I have three wonderful experts here with me who can talk about this, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Birgitte Snabe from Art 2030, Audrey Decker from Street Art for Humanity.
Mankind? Street Art for Mankind.
For Mankind, of course. Street Art for Mankind. And Tina Survilla Lindell. And you are from The Hug. And what The Hug does, we will also hear in a moment. But Birgitte, I would like to start with you and start with Art 2030. And we have a wonderful exhibition that you have mounted here on the UN Plaza, and many of you will have seen that. It is called Future Hours. And it really coincided with the Summit of the Future, of course, that was held here at UN headquarters on Sunday and Monday and resulted in the adoption of a really forward-looking Pact for the Future. So, Birgitte, tell us a little about this exhibition, but also about Art 2030 and its mission.
Yes. Art 2030, our mission is to engage the art world in the SDGs. And this exhibition, Future Hours, is just a great example of that. It's presented here, as you said, just outside the tent, the posters out there, as well as on hundreds and hundreds of bus shelters throughout the city of New York. 20 artists and collectives from all around the world have responded to the United Nations Summit of the Future, making poster artworks addressing current and future global challenges. And they're all united by a common goal. They explore diverse, collaborative approaches to addressing the challenges. Therefore, the artworks are done by artists who are also engaging in, for example, community building, buying threatened land, promoting nature-based solutions, and all the artworks, they provide a diversity of visions for a better world. So, for example, one of the artists, Maya Lin, she says her contributions message is one of hope for people and the planet. Nature can save us if we save nature. So you could say it's the artworks are powerful visualizations of a better future, based on the belief that we cannot shape a future we cannot see.
Yeah, thanks so much, Birgitte. And I think what's also so interesting about this exhibition, and you just alluded to it already, is that these artists are really straddling art and activism.
Yes.
And we are seeing that in the posters. So Art 2030, I mean, you have the 2030 agenda even in your name. Yes. So tell us a little bit more about your organization.
We engage, we do different things, naturally. We engage with artists to make huge and powerful projects. We've been making projects here together with the UN before. For example, with Superflex, an example of where it was the General Assembly here with the important, powerful people from all over the world. And then together with Superflex, we had this, why should only the human race be represented? So in this artwork, there would be this amazing sea creatures crawling up and down on a light projection on the facade. So having this way also represented the animal kingdom in the United Nations. Also, we try to gather the art community with the art charter. So helping, working together with the sector to reduce carbon emission. We call it the ACA, Action for Climate, together with the art sector. So we do different things, all engaging the art world in engaging with the SDGs.
Yeah. and I think we all remember this beautiful projection on the UN Secretariat building at that time with the interspecies assembly there.
Exactly.
Audrey, Street Art for Mankind works with large murals, produces large murals on topics related to the SDGs, to human rights. And you just had a collaboration here also with colleagues from on International Peace Day with a project here, a graffiti project. So tell us a little bit more about your work, and also tell us how you think art can have an impact on the SDGs, or for the SDGs, I should say.
Thank you, Nanette. Yes, so basically, Street Art for Mankind, we are a non-profit organization. We were created almost 10 years ago, and it was about a calling. When we met with the Nobel Peace Prize, Kailash Satyarthi, who had the Nobel with Malala. This is where it all started. So Kailash Satyarthi fights against child labor and trafficking, and we were really moved by the cause, and we decided to bring the artists working in the street for the children of the street. The United Nations heard about it. They invited us here. We did a huge street art exhibition. The first street art exhibition was 2017, in January. And then basically it went well. We had other exhibitions. The UN agency came. And then, you know, from one project, from child labor and trafficking, and you know, the UN is a big family, so we get the cousins from UNESCO, from UNEP, from FAO, from UNITAR, from World Food Program. I'm sorry, I'm missing different agencies here, but basically a lot of different cousins who came over, and we decided with them to do murals because, you know, there are more than one issue in our world. So I guess if you can raise awareness on child labor and trafficking, then you can raise awareness and drive action on everything. Because this is a very hard subject. So we started to do those really big works all around the world, whether it was with UN Women on gender equality, with UNEP on ecosystem restoration, etc., with all on education. And why does it work? Basically, well, it works because those huge murals, actually that's our new work, it is about climate action, we just did it now. This is in New York by the Javits. Those big, big works, they stop people in their day-to-day, they touch their heart, and then they touch their mind, and then people go to action. And this is really working. So we have, for instance, plaques on each of the murals. This one, they will be here next week. And we have also an app called Behind the Wall. So each time you have any of our murals around the world, and you scan the picture, with the app, you get all the information. You get most of the time audios from the United Nations as well. The artists speak about the issue. So this is really about engaging and putting the conversations in the street. That's also super important. And what we did with the UN peacekeeping team, and this is this visual. Actually, you can check out this painting and this engagement piece here. They are right at the entrance of the UN, right there. So here the idea was to, obviously it's smaller than we usually do, but this was really to trigger conversation on peace and remind that everybody can be part of the conversation. And the funny part is that in the people who engage, actually, you had the public, you had a very, very famous, notorious activist who work, you know, on the ground with the United Nations. You had the mayor of Paris. You had the actor of Game of Thrones. So basically, people from all walks of life who came to make, you know, a sort of a statement about their feeling about peace. And this is the beauty of art, that it brings the conversation in the street, but also it brings people from everywhere to engage on those important issues. And you were mentioning the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Actually, we love the SDGs, and we've been doing, over the last 3 years, crazy work in Houston, Texas. If you have friends in Houston, they may tell you about the murals in downtown Houston. There are actually now 47 of them, and we're going to continue in January. They are all about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, let me tell you something. When we started 3 years ago, nobody was able to pronunciate United Sustainable Development Goals over there in Houston. And now everybody knows them, and we have represented the 17 of them, but then we mix them all together so that people are aware not only about the SDG, but what they can do to put the SDG into action.
So thank you so much, Audrey. And we're so glad that now in Houston they know everything about the SDGs as well. But I think what you point out, and also what Birgitte already referred to, is that the important intersection between really the artists and the wider public. And this is what you are trying with your street art. This is what Art 2030 is also now trying with the art that in public spaces and this exhibition. So I want to get to you now, Tina. Tina Survilla Lindell. You are the Senior Creative Marketing Manager and Art Curator at The Hug. And The Hug is really a community of artists around the world, right? Yeah. So tell us about your work, and also about your work with the SDG Action Campaign, because you've worked together.
Absolutely. So I work at HUG, and we are a global arts community of 35,000 artists across 170 countries. And we work to democratize access to the arts, largely through technology. We live in an increasingly digital world. And what's really amazing about this digital world is that not only are there more and more tools and resources for people to start making art, to realize they are artists. I think everyone innately is a creative person, but not everybody has the same access to the tools for creativity. But now with internet access, with computers, with tablets, with a phone in everyone's hand, more and more people are realizing they have the tools they need to act on their creativity. And what's really amazing is that at HUG, we've curated over 300 open calls in the past 2 years to bring artists from all over the world to exhibitions from everywhere from Bali to just over the water in Brooklyn. And one of those partners we've worked with are the SDG Action Campaign, where we curated art from over 1,500 international submissions. Many of those were early stage artists, people who maybe this was the first time they've shared their art with someone who wasn't a direct family member, saying, you know what, I believe in the Sustainable Development Goals. I've been called to make art in support of the SDGs, so let me try and share it with the United Nations. And that art actually debuted at Youth Impact Day with UN Youth Office and SDG Action Campaign on Friday. And so it's incredible to think of someone who was scared to call themselves an artist, who didn't feel validated, even though they've made it for years, but they've never shared it, to have their art in one of the most important places in the entire world being shown to some of the most influential leaders in the world. And I feel very special. I get to play a little role in helping them achieve that dream.
Thanks so much. And I think what you're alluding to there already is to really to see the impact of this kind of work. I mean, you are basically providing means of expressions for people around the world, artistic means of expression around issues that matter. And that's really what I want to get to. And ask you, all of you, really the impact. What is the impact? What's the resonance that you get from your audiences? And I know, Birgitte, you had personally a very, very strong experience with a piece of art that in a way also brought you to this work, right?
Yes. It was actually one of my strongest personal art experiences back in 2017. I was walking with a friend of mine in the streets of Copenhagen. And I saw this artwork from afar. It was facilitated by Art 2030. It was an Ai Weiwei project, Soleil Levant. And I saw it from afar, and it looked so beautiful and so colorful on the facade of Kunsthal Charlottenborg. And I was truly enjoying this wonderful sight. But then I realized the facade was covered with more than 3,500 live vests, all collected on the Greek island of Lesbos, all worn by refugees trying to get across the Mediterranean. Some people would have made it, and some not. And all of a sudden, it wasn't numbers and statistics. It was real people, real destinies. So the artist doesn't solve the migration crisis, but he makes us feel it. He makes us think and reflect. For me, personally, it was kind of an emotional awakening for understanding the power of art, how art can create empathy and understanding and change your perceptions. And if I should take it on a higher level and less personal level, then I can tell that Soleil Levant, it was described in media all over the world with a reach than more than 400 million people. And that's exactly what we want to do in Art Art 2030, that, you know, it's also about the effectiveness, that you make sure that it's not, artwork is not only seen by a few people, but you find means and ways to make, to scale the impact of power.
Yes, and as you say, I mean, 400 million people. I mean, that's a huge amount of people, and I very much remember myself this very, very strong, very powerful installation of Ai Weiwei. So, Audrey, also to you, what's the feedback you get to your big murals, to your activations? How does it resonate with the public?
Well, basically it resonates in a sense where people feel really, really proud of their community and how this art inspired them. For instance, actually, I live close to New Rochelle, New York, and we did a series of murals over there. And I will always remember that day we had done on one of the big hotels a huge mural with an African-American astronaut. I was driving, and then we were stopped in a traffic jam, and I realized that actually the reason we were stopped is that this gentleman went out of his car, has completely stopped the traffic, and he took a picture of that mural, and he was smiling to everybody because, you see, she made it, she's there, she represents my community, and I'm so proud that she's over there. And we see that a lot, people who feel connected to their community or to their word or to their sensation, or people who tell me, I had one of my partner who told me about our murals we have between 42nd and 48th Street right here in New York, and he said, you know, when I'm in my thoughts and I think about the problems, and then I raise up, and then I see your murals, it reminds me of what is really important. So it's a way basically to get back to the reality of what really matters in our society, to make sure that we can, you know, create a better and a child-friendly world. And so that's the way it resonates. And more concretely for us, when we raise funds with our murals, we give them to the Nobel Peace Prize Kailash Satyarthi I was mentioning originally, to fund Red and Rescue programs. So last year we funded Red and Rescue on the railroad of India, and we saved 415 children. This is a drop, you know, but this is what we do for children. So this is really a reminder that whatever we do, we want to do it for the next generation. We want to create a child-friendly world, and this is really what matters the most.
Thank you so much, and that is a very impressive impact, obviously, you know, what we just heard there from you, Audrey. Tina, also to you. I mean, you are tapping into a huge community. You're communicating with a huge community. How does what you do there resonate and maybe spark additional action, discussion, discourse around the Sustainable Development Goals?
So, as a society, we have a very contentious relationship with how important is art. I know I'm in a good company here where we think it's very, very important, but there are people who disagree with us. But the reality is when we talk about art, it's not frivolous, it's not optional, it's not even an abstract notion. Art is creativity, and creativity is what makes us human. And what's really been amazing with focusing on early stage artists at HUG is, like I said earlier, these are people who are new in their journey. They're trying to learn, how do I develop the technical skills for art, but how do I develop the ways to tell the story of my art and share the things that matter to me? And what happens with these artists is that they realize the art they make not only has meaning, it has value, but it also has impact. They're creating art about things that matter to them, and then when they share it with the world, whether that's Sustainable Development Goals or otherwise, people look at their art and they say, you know what, that matters to me too. And it starts conversations, and it gets more people to talk and to make big things happen. 2030 is not that far away. We have some very lofty goals, 17 of them to be exact. And here at the Summit of the Future of New York, we've got some of the most incredible leaders in the world gathered today to talk about how can we make that happen. But even with all of our talent here, we can't do it alone. We need everybody on the planet to come together as a team, and I believe art is the perfect vehicle to tell that story.
This is, I mean, I couldn't have said it more beautiful, and this brings us, unfortunately, already to the end of our conversation. I would like to thank all of you, Tina, Audrey, Birgitte, for being with us here today and for advancing the Sustainable Development Goals through your work with art and by offering new perspectives on the issues that matter to all of us. Thank you so much for being here with us today.